in the global north, they think it's about money, like we have to send money to these movements. But actually, solidarity does not just mean money. Solidarity is about supporting in any way. For example, solidarity in form of standing together on campaigns.
Nicholas Omonuk has done much work to raise awareness and build climate justice. He created End Fossil Occupy Uganda, a local climate movement demanding a phase-out of fossil fuels. He co-founded Plant for My Future, which mobilized youth across Africa. He has attended COP events. He has strong messages about how the Global South and Global North should be interacting. He has powerful insights into how we can each help make a difference. Let's hear what he has to say. Well, it's great seeing you again, Nicholas, and this time you're in Germany, I understand.
Yes.
What kind of studies are you doing in Germany? Are you specialized in something?
Yeah, I'm currently studying sustainable civil engineering.
Interesting. Civil engineering, in other words, people.
It's more about people. So sustainable civil engineering sits at the intersection of infrastructure, environmental science, social impact, and it gives me technical tools to understand and engage with kinds of large-scale developments that affect like communities and maybe also frontline people who are always affected by construction projects. So I chose like sustainable civil engineering because it has the sustainability aspect.
Yeah, well, you've been very involved in that sort of thing. I remember when you told me about End Fossil Occupy Uganda. That still exists, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has existed for now almost 5 years. So, and mostly our campaigns have been against the East African crude oil pipeline. Also, there is another initiative that we've been doing, advocating mainly for indigenous tree conservation and water management in drought-affected communities, and a plan for my future. Yes, and for me, like it's also good to take the engineering foundation to be able to offer like this technical dimension and also learn about environmental consequences of construction projects. And on top of my land economics bachelor's, it's also like a good point to upgrade and have more experience from learning about land to now learning about what's put on land and how it can be implemented sustainably.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think it's essential for the future of all of us, for the future of the world.
Yeah.
We tend to get involved in projects and ideas and building new things and forget about sustainability.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of human nature.
It's always about profit. So,
yeah. So do you have some new solutions that you're developing now with End Fossil Occupy Uganda?
Yeah. So just as the movement, initially we had started as a movement that with a clear and urgent demand, which was like phasing out fossil fuels and ensuring that there's a just transition away from fossil fuels in a just and equitable way. Does that not leave many African communities behind? But over time, we have actually learned that demanding for change is just part of our work. So we are now like trying to look for alternative ways of building community resilience to create conditions in which like many people can imagine and live in a different kind of future. So we are trying to set solutions like the one I've talked about under another sub-initiative, Plan for My Future, which is now operating under a registered foundation called the Kutas Green Foundation. I founded it together with another activist, and this foundation is currently running End Fossil Occupy and also running the Plan for My Future initiative. And just to introduce the Plan for My Future initiative, it came from witnessing, of course, the devastating impacts of droughts in eastern Uganda, where, of course, I come from and where I was born. And I personally have I've experienced the fact that mature indigenous trees still that were helping us to retain water and to give us shade have been cut down because of course, use of firewood. Like a lot of communities don't have access to clean cooking, so they tend to cut like trees, and then these trees are used as a form of cooking energy. And for us, our plan was, of course, to plant indigenous trees. And we started this initiative in 2021, actually, before the End Fossil Occupy campaign, but it was still small, although now we have kept on adding different activities to it, and we began planting indigenous trees where we established and managed women nurseries, creating, of course, a community for food forests that provide year-round nutrition, medicine, like in form of herbs. And at the moment, we have 3 nurseries producing 40,000 seedlings annually, and a network of 70 women volunteers and 32,000 trees in the ground on ground with a 78% survival rate. So we try to assess also the survival rate of these trees, and we give the responsibility to the women to look after the trees and to also share like their stories on like the difficulties they faced. And most of them, the challenges that they raised were mainly so many droughts. And we actually won an award from Terre de Femmes this year to continue scaling up this project, and we are going to continue like with the project continuously until like we try to make more impact. So its mainly focuses Eastern Uganda in Teso and Bukedi sub-region. Teso region is mainly for indigenous tribes of called the Itesot. I am an Itesot, and also the Bagwere people. It's a mixture of Bantu and the pastoralist tribe from the Nilotic dynasty. So something that is connected to me, like personally, as someone who comes from there. And we are also currently working on a climate education initiative called Youth Power for Sustainable Future, to actually bring in the perspective of environmental education to also ensure that children, students, and communities learn about climate change and bring also power to the people. And then besides that, I co-developed like another project called the NDC Yetu. This one is mainly to fix the gap between, of course, climate policy, because like when you realize in climate policy and the development of NDCs, which are national determined contributions. For those who might not know what national determined contributions are, these are like commitments that countries have to make after a period of 5 years to cut down their emission, to mitigate climate change, also on adaptation. So these submissions have to cut across all sectors of their planning phases in their budgets. And usually most of the countries in the global south have been developing these plans without consulting communities. So most of the communities don't even know about these NDCs or nationally determined contributions. They don't actually know what their governments have submitted at the moment, which had to be submitted last year. So like the new NDCs by several countries had to be submitted last year, and most of the countries that submitted showed that many countries will not fulfill the targets of limiting global temperatures below 1.5 degrees. So for us, what we are trying to also use technology, which of course is a bit limited to many communities. So we want to also adopt other ways of collecting data, collecting their inputs, what they want to like contribute in these documents, and then we will draft reports and submit these reports with our government, like the focal point, which is representing Uganda in the UNFCCC areas, like at COPs, at Bonds, at the SP conferences. Yeah, so this is currently what has been happening besides, of course, like the campaign that you already knew about, which was only the End Fossil Occupy.
It's interesting. You referred to women being more involved now than before. Why is that? Why do you think women are more involved?
I think that why women are more involved involved is because when you observe women, like for example, I would give the part of Palisa is that most times in Palisa, women are the one like who are working more, like they work more, like they work in the gardens. Most of the times they have to also look for money and they have to take care of the kids. So it's quite a lot of work, also fetching water, all this work. And given the fact that many parts of like Palisa, you find that it's also a patriarchal society, and you find that they do a lot of work, but they are not empowered. So that they have the capacity. And for us, we looked at this strength of the women having the capacity to work, and then trying it out. And we have actually seen it that most of the women have fulfilled, like when they promise that we are going to protect this, we are going to do this, or we are going to this, they actually do it and they fulfill it with love. So it's more that women are more intentional and women are more into like protecting their home, into protecting their futures, into protecting the future of their children. Of course, men have also been involved and centrally also in some roles like helping in reaching out to many people and also helping us like identify potential people who might want to take part in the project. So yeah, I think it's an intersection, but majority is women. And also given the fact that women have been mostly they are the ones who are impacted by all these events. So we try to make sure that since they are the ones who are more impacted, then they're the ones who have to lead in the solution and also try to be leaders this time. So to also break this gap where like the power imbalance is very strong. So we try to also break this power imbalance.
That's interesting. When you say women are more impacted, it's because they work at home and they take care of the children and they deal with, how would I say, individual family issues more than men do? Are the men sort of out on the road doing other things?
When I said more impacted, I was meaning in terms of, besides, of course, that being impacted in that way, yes, also being in terms of like these extreme weather events, like the droughts, like most of them talked about a lot of droughts, like affecting the trees and also affecting their farming, meaning that when they go and work like in a garden, or they go they have like to fetch water or something like that. They are the ones who bear like so much sunshine. They are the ones who have to like bear the responsibility when the harvest is not theirs because they're the ones who have to harvest. So all this is a lot of impact on them. And at the same time, they don't earn money for this. So what we are trying to do is also like with the tree nurseries is that they are able to be paid from working in these tree nurseries, and also whenever they protect like the biodiversity and protect also the like everything around, they get rewarded like with in form of like gifts, in form of sometimes like a remuneration. And then also besides that, they get independence, so they get to lead like what they would like to decide what they want to do. They get to also harvest from these nurseries. So it's not just like trees, there are also fruit trees, there are also like plants that bear fruit at home, so that like you can harvest and also feed your home. So they are also able to get food that they can harvest and eat at home and also sell in the market if they want.
So the challenges you've talked about a little bit. How does communication about these initiatives take place? How does the word spread from one family to another family to one place to another place? How do you get more and more people involved?
Basically working with local leaders, and also working with, because we work with elder women, because they are elder women, so the women who have been there like for a long time and know about like the indigenous trees. They know, they almost know like many families around. So you talk to them and get to first understand what is needed. That's the first thing. So understanding what is required. And then from that, they help us to get like a list of people who can be potential women in the project. And then from that, like we do an outreach. So we reach out to them and then we do an introduction. So the last time that we did the introduction, I was in Uganda. It was in December. We gathered all of them, so we had to call all of them at one place, and then after that, we orient them like in the local languages. So we are not speaking English. We speak in Ateso and try to also speak in Luganda, so that like because most of the women also like in this region, like not in the town, because in the town at least you can find in Palisa town you find like that a lot of people can speak English, but then when you go deep in the village, then people will only speak Ateso or Luganda because it's part of the heritage, it's part of them. So we use Ateso to speak like what we are trying to do and make them understand and get an opinion from them. And then later we tell them like we would like to, for example, go in this region where there's maybe a swamp, and this region is because there has been a lot of tree cutting in this region, or because of like we try to explain because of like environmental issues and also the human activity. And then from that, like voluntarily the women join. So we have to first collect water because getting water is not easy there. So we had to first have to collect water and then prepare and then get like, we hired also like a van that we can put the water in, and also we can add like every other thing that we use, like equipment, like the hoe and many other equipment. Then after that, we collect also the list of the women, the name, the number, the phone number, and everything, so that we keep in touch. So that's how I would try to give the overview. But before that, of course, we first have to like reach out to locals there, because I know so many local people there. It's my hometown, so it's not hard to figure out. Then we get like they tell us when we can come, and then that's when we plan to go, and then we do our activities. Yes.
Very nice. You're really building an active community that way, where all the different members of the community are active,
Yes.
working together. That's very interesting. One thing you said in an email exchange we had earlier was you said life is hard for activists.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work, a lot of pressure. What did you have in mind when you made that comment, how hard life is for activists?
Yeah, basically what I had in mind is that one is most times we don't have access to funding. So that's that's the first thing that we are under resourced, like especially grassroots movements in the global south. We are chronically under resourced relative to, of course, the scale of our problems that we have when it comes to resources that are available for global north organizations. That like there's just enormous opportunities that organizations or movements in the global north have. First of all, there's a lot of access to internet. Electricity is easily accessible. Like there's just so many things that can be used like to maybe fundraise. And then also there's a lot of people who can try to dedicate time to support or like volunteer work. But for example, in Uganda, most of the grassroots movements being under resourced is one of the things. So getting internet is difficult, so you have to buy a lot of internet. And when you don't have like funding, if you don't have to invest like your own money, because in some of these projects I have to invest like my own money that I try to work for. So when you don't invest like your own money in the projects, then you don't actually execute tasks. You don't have money to buy data. You don't have money to compensate volunteers, because volunteers who come like to support, they have to at least be compensated like a certain fee. And then at the same time, getting the trees also, like for this project, you have to buy like the trees, you have to buy material to use, you have to translate like some of the material for the people. You have to also, because some words are not easy to be translated, you have to get a translator, and this translator also you have to compensate them. So it's not that like very easy. So these are like some of the things. And then other challenges include, of course, the risk that we get and scrutiny from our governments, the kind of ways that limit us also to execute our tasks when we are free. So we don't feel like very free to execute some tasks, because some of the activities that we do as activists, they are taken as I would say like you're working against the government or you're working against the state.
Oh,
So because you're doing some tasks, like maybe you're fighting against the ECOP, this one, like they see it that you're against like the development, or let me say you're supporting communities who are actually vulnerable. They think that maybe you want to become a politician and take over the government or something, like get public support. And then after getting public support, then you get into power. So things like this. So it's very much that we have to do our work like we have to do it, but we don't have to like talk much about it. We just have to do it intentionally for the people and make sure that the people actually are part of the solution. And then like most of the times we also don't have like strong structures to protect ourselves, like maybe in case of human rights, like human rights violations, maybe someone has been arrested, or there's been an intimidation, or there's like a serious case. You find that the structures don't favor you that much. And there's also sometimes like you're fighting big powers. And when you're fighting a big power, like someone who is a big political person, then it's very difficult. And this one, I think, it could be general, because also in the US,
yeah.
it's just like the same. When it's someone who is in power commits a crime, then it takes some time. So yeah, something like that.
That's human nature, isn't it? For whatever the country is.
Yeah.
Do you have young people getting involved with your work? You mentioned older people that you used as sort of a reference for the past, and they know a lot about the place. How about young people today? Are they interested in working with you?
Most of the team are actually young people, like from the people who do communication, organizing, moderation, also outreach. Like it's mostly people below the age of 35, and most of, I would say, like ranging from 28, from 16 to 28 years. So mostly it's young people, and we work with older people to advise us. So because the solution cannot just be fixed by us young people, we need a lot of knowledge from like older generations and older people to actually understand how we can implement these projects without causing
Yeah.
any issues. Because one thing is that we are young, and sometimes we want things to be done very fast. And then like maybe like someone older will tell you, no, it cannot be done that fast because of this and this, and then you have to look into it if it makes sense and something like that. So yeah, this is how we try to work for the meantime, working with everyone. We are a youth-led group, but we try to work with everyone, every kind of stakeholder, who will not, of course, risk us, but someone can who can make sure that we are able to implement the project, and we are able to do service delivery, because most of our work is for service delivery, and it depends on commitment, like of everyone. Yeah, of course, some people, of course, have been stepping out, because the same team that we work with at the moment is not the same team that was working at the same time, because this is like not a regular paying job. So it's not like a job. You just do it once in a while. So most people have like to take care of different responsibilities. So like maybe they need to get a job, they have to pay rent, they have to handle certain tasks and things like that. And it's mostly that if you're not getting like enough payment for your work, then it means you quit. So people are demoralized. Some people, of course, are overwhelmed. It's just too much work, and then you're not paid. Yeah, something like that, or you're paid like something small that can be handled, like to just compensate you, but it's not like how you get
Yeah.
paid on a contract on a job with a big organization.
Yeah, I see how that can be a problem for a lot of people, and justifiably also because they need money to do certain things. How do you see this, I would say, this movement or these changes evolving in the next, I would say in the future, I would say in, say, 5, 6, 7, maximum 10 years? Do you feel there's going to be a big change for the good?
I think it will depend on one, like the geopolitics, and also like the different ways in which like several countries react to geopolitics. Like at this point, I don't try to like get involved in everything, is because I try to now focus on bringing impact in my community. So like it doesn't matter like what I see, how the world will be, but what impact I will make. That's, I think, what matters more to me. And for me, in 10 years, I want, of course, the projects or the initiatives that I'm running to be recognized and respected as a force. Like, to just give an example, of course, I don't at the moment think I can solve every problem in Africa or in Uganda, but I can fix the problem in my community, and that's what I'm trying to do. And it's not just about campaigning. It's more than, of course, campaigning. It's organizing. It's just also connecting my realistic change, like something I can really change in my community, and how the change I put in my community in Palisa can also inspire other young people, or can also inspire even politicians who might not be like advocating for some things. So inspiring them to implement certain things in their communities. And for me, it's more about this. And in 10 years, I hope that many things like that I'm working on, including the campaigns against the East African crude oil pipeline, will be recognized at some point, that at some point they will see that there was right in what the young people are doing, with the, of course, the trees that we are planting, all the networks that we are building, that this network will not just end on this. They will also build their own networks. They will also like build their own solidarity spaces within this time. Like with time, things are going to change, and people will co-organize alone and be able to work along. So for my role is to be like an accelerator, like to show that everything is possible. Like many things are possible. We just need to start. We just need to do it. For me, this is what I think my role is. And then after, in 10 years, I think it will be autonomous. Like everyone will be trying to do what they can. And geopolitically, I would not say that I know much about what will happen geopolitically, but generally speaking, is that whatever is happening geopolitically is also like separate. So it's normal that everything will rely, for example, on the US. So at the moment, you can see that many countries not aligning with everything like that. Like, for example, the US will do. For example, the US stepped out of the UN climate agreements, but more than 190 countries stayed. So this is something that also indicates that it is not just one country that will determine what will happen in 10 years. It's going to be a collective effort. And another thing is that there's going to be a lot of changes that might happen, including also empowerment. So many countries are going to get empowered. There's a lot of kind of empowerment that is building up from movements, from people, from communities, and understanding that will be bringing this change. So it won't just be dependent on one country that's a superpower, but it will be dependent on individual countries coming together and working together on several things.
That's a very, how would I say, inspirational view that you have. I like it a lot. And I really appreciate the fact that you see yourself as an accelerator to bring change about through other people. And you're so aware of the fact that it has to be a collective effort to achieve success. I think that's so wise. Do you have any last words, any last thoughts that you would like to share?
Maybe I just wanted to share that even currently with all like the geopolitical issues, there are still like these injustices that happen, and just to give an overview to many people all over the world to just try and act with care and look at like the bigger picture of protecting people and communities and bringing together like community like and unity amongst the world instead of division, so that we can solve several crises, including like hunger, poverty, inequality, and the climate crisis itself, like all these things that were indicated in the Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals. If we want to fix them, then everyone has to know about them. Everyone has to be part of them for us to achieve. And you don't have to have every resource to do it. You just have to do it with what you have.
Absolutely. Nicholas, what do you think that people and organizations in the global north can do to bring about change and increase awareness of what's happening in the global south?
I think just to go straight to the point, because I've been asked this question a lot, like what movements in the global north can do. And usually, like most movements in the global north, they think it's about money. Like we have to send money to these movements to implement like several activities. But actually, solidarity does not just mean money. Solidarity is about supporting in anywhere. Like there are so many things. Like for example, solidarity in form of standing together on campaigns. Then one of the campaigns has been an example that I can give is the Stop IPCO campaign, how it was co-coordinated with several groups within Africa, within the global north, and how the campaign was coordinated to also file a legal case against Total in France. So it was not just about money, but it was about this kind of community that was built. Other ways that like many movements in the global north can support is also sharing several skills. Like there are a lot of skills that we can learn from the global south, and also that the global north movements can learn from the global south movements, because I've worked with movements in the global north before, and when you look at how global north movements work, they work more like on a specific cause, like targeting to fix a certain issue, a certain problem. And then after the problem, like it sort of like stops there. But when it comes to movements in the global south, you build these communities. You're not just fighting or campaigning on a specific campaign, but you're also connecting, you're also understanding another one's culture, you're also understanding what one dislikes, what one does not like, what one loves. Also, this is more the connection that comes in the global south movements, and this kind of connection of knowing yourself and knowing others and knowing each other and keeping this kind of strong bond that is not just on a specific campaign, but even after the campaign, you stay in touch. Even after the campaign, you still work on several other campaigns. So this kind of solidarity built on a crisis and having to share this crisis together, and this crisis not going away, because I know that there are different crises, because like you find that our crisis could be about a project that is taking away our land, that is taking away our cultures. It's taking away like a lot of things from us, including like the right to also make income from farming. And then, for example, in the global north, it could be a campaign maybe to protect like homeless people or something like that. So most likely you find that for our campaign, it's also linked to the land, that connection to the land. And most of this connection to land is something that I also see that in the global north, it's not that strong. When you look at how land is looked at in the global north, it's looked at as like in monetary terms. It's looked at as something that you can lease, something that you could maybe sell. And then you find that in the global south, when you look at land, it's culture, it's about you, it's about your story. It connects within you, like everything about you starts from the land. Even when you die, you're buried in your village. You have to be buried in your same village. So when when this is taken away from you, it is just like taking away your identity. And for us, like these are the differences that also, I think, when we learn together and we try to intersect all these connections, we will be like, we can make like a way of solidarity. And when one movement does not understand the other, let me say in the global north, the movement would like to only help in terms of monetary value, then it also creates a dependency. It's called a beggar tendency. So you find that global south organizations will always keep begging, like begging that we need money for this, we need money for this. But what can take away the begging? It's empowerment. So telling them and helping them to even apply for grants that they are eligible for, so that they are able to learn how to apply for grants. They are able to be able to have funds to be able to, for example, execute a project or run a campaign. But when it's more like a beggar tendency, then it is still you're encouraging the system, which is actually this capitalist system, which makes sure that we act like we are saving others. It creates this savior tendency and beggar tendency. And that's what I think we have failed to learn, especially also movements in the global north and also movements in the global south. So it's a two-way, but it's accelerated mostly by groups and movements in the global north.
Yes, very, very interesting. It makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you very much, Nicholas, for sharing these thoughts. I think it's everything that we've talked about, everything that you've talked about is important, and the way you express it is inspiring.
Thanks.